Bow. Ready, stands. Pyeongan Samdan.
Pyeongan Samdan, sir.
Eight! Hello. Attention, bow. Very nice. That is the Pyeongan Samdan, the third in the series of the intermediate Pyeongan forms. Now we're going to demonstrate Pyeongan Sadan, the fourth in the series of the 5 Pyeongan forms. Mr. Jason Beveridge with dedications, and we'll do it at proper form speed. Ready, stance. Attention, bow. B. Pyeongan Sadan. First movement. 1. Double defense. 2. Double defense. 3. Cat stance, shifting to cross block 4. Reinforce. 5. Come up and set. Side kick with a bottom fist, cross elbow. Set. Side kick with a bottom fist, side kick, elbow. 1. Low block chop. Kick. Lunging back fist. Spin set. 135. Lapel grab choke. Push back kick with full punch. 1 and 2. To the right, 90 degrees. Lapel grab choke. Push back kick. Punch, punch. Center line, reinforce defense, reinforce defense, reinforce defense. Grab, knee, back this way just a minute. Okay, attention, bow. All right, now we'll break down the self-defense applications. Many of them are similar to the previous forms. Once again, there are a few other new interpretations, new self-defense movements inside the forms. So you can see, just with the 3 basic forms, the 4 basic forms that we covered earlier, now we're going into the 4th Pyeongan form. If you just knew all the self-defense movements and all the individual basic blocks, punches, and strikes, that's a whole self-defense system by itself. So you can see how people, if they just master the forms and the basics, they can be. You're coming up into this particular position. Once again, some people interpret as 2 people striking at you exactly at the same time, but unless their strikes are exactly at the same time, then it's going to be a little bit off balance. Once again, if somebody grabs you, grabs like the wrist, and you're bringing this hand up, and you're exposing that hand, and then it opens this up. So when you bring and you elevate the arm, it activates the pressure points in the side of the neck and makes them a little more sensitive to attack. So off of this can be like this here, coming up. Also, if he throws a punch here, and I block it up like this and come in and strike. A lot of times in sparring, let's go back to sport fighting a lot of times, and I've taken some of the Pyeongan movements just to apply to my sport fighting. For instance, if a person throws a back fist at you, other side if you will, just throw. A lot of times people will block, and then they'll throw the reverse punch. But in the forms, a lot of times when we have this, or we have these types of movements, 2 movements going at the same time, the block and the punch speeds up the process of the technique being delivered. So instead of 1, 2, which is 2 individual movements, even though as fast as you can do them, sometimes it's still too slow against an experienced fighter. So what I started doing was blocking and punching at the same. If you go back to the forms, those movements are in. Okay, now we'll demonstrate the Pyeongan Samdan, the third in the series of the Pyeongan movements individually, and then we'll break it down once again into self-defense applications, and we'll demonstrate it at full form speed. Ready, stance? Attention, bow. Ready, stance from B. First movement, ready, look left, 1. Outside defense, step up. Double defense, 1 and 2. To the right rear, 1. Step up, set, double defense, 1, 2. Center line, reinforced. Step and spear hand, spin, the bottom fist, sliding, and second punch. Ready, set. Hands up and down. Ready? Crescent kick, 1 and 2. Crescent kick, 1 and 2. Another one, crescent kick, 1 and 2. Step and set. Straddle, spin, look, jump, center, auto, ready, stance. Tension, bow. Okay, now we'll come in with my assistant, Mr. Perigo, and we'll demonstrate the applications of the movements. Once again, the first block, which is this, back stance, usually is a defensive motion. Can be a number of techniques, can be a block. As you step up, you can do a punch, and then you can do a double strike at the same time. Nose and groin, nose and groin. If it's against a grab and somebody grabs you, two-hand grab, you can do the same type of techniques. Double spread block, like so. Up, like this. So you can block, and if they grab you, you step up, and then break the holds, like this. So you have to be able to work them both ways. Over the top, if this one comes over the top, then this one comes down, and up like so, or vice versa. So a lot of times in self-defense situations, if you do these movements, they can be used not just for blocking, but for striking at the same time, simultaneous type strikes. The back knuckle to the nose, the striking to the groin at the same time. Going to the rear, pretty much the same thing, just working on both movements so you don't have any weaknesses. If somebody grabs you, just this defense alone can knock the hands off. You can step up, you can strike, or if somebody grabs you, you can knock their hands off with a double spread. First outside defense. In our last form, we demonstrated that as either a power block, or if somebody's grabbed you, a strike into the pressure point just below the elbow. Let's turn this way so they can see this one here. And this particular point is right here. So you're pinching that in, sandwiching that particular move in for the strike. The next movement on this particular one is a twist and a step. So you're coming down the center line, 1, 2, 3. We had this in another form as a block. This spear hand, come this way if you will, shoot a strike. This spear hand, if you will be going into the pit of the stomach, the solar plex or the sternum in here. If somebody grabs your wrist and you spin and tuck, then a self-defense move would be a spin bottom fist strike. So the most common reaction when somebody grabs your wrist is to try to pull away. In an earlier form, the Chodon, we went like this. But a lot of times people will pull away and they can't pull away. But if you go with the pressure, then you have the spin bottom fist. And the next move is just basically a step, straight punch to the chest or heart point. In advanced martial arts, if you know all the pressure points, the meridians on the body, the way you punch with specific knuckles, the techniques can be more effective. Basically, the chest is some of the strongest muscles on the body. So when you hit in the chest, it doesn't hurt unless you go right between the breast. Right between the breast point right here is a heart point. It's one of the most damaging points that there is to strike, but you have to get a knuckle straight in there. That's why a horizontal fist usually will not reach through there, especially if a man's pectoral muscles and chest muscles are big, so you have to kind of go in just a little bit of an angle here and get the knuckle straight in. The set motion is against a grab, pretty much against a grab. The other motion is the crescent kick. If somebody coming down for the crescent kick, you're set, you come up with a crescent kick here. It's the face. But what I'd like to demonstrate there would be the crescent kick by itself is a point by itself. But after the crescent kick, there's a stomp. And then I use the elbow in here for the kidney. So if somebody starts to move at you or you're fighting and you hit them with a crescent kick, you can stomp their foot, hit them with an elbow, then come with a back fist to the side of the head. I'll do it at this angle as well. So after this position, forget about, coming from this position, but if you're just in a fighting situation, you do the crescent, and then the stomp, and then the elbow to the kidney, then a back fist to the side of the head. That's one interpretation. Or if just somebody grabs you, we're in a combat situation, and you stomp their foot, hit them with an elbow, come with a back fist, it's very effective there. Against a grab, this technique coming in here can be just a arm bar. So just breaking down into here and then following up with a back fist strike is very effective. Another interpretation we use for this, if we're sparring, a lot of times we'll just turn in and block, like so, and come in with a back fist. So from the forms, you can learn some nice sparring movements. 1, 2. So it looks like that your guard is open, and when you turn in, it's perfect for the count. So there's 3 basically interpretations for that. The foot stomp, the elbow here, the back fist here. Somebody grabs you, break the balance, the back fist here, spar side to the left leg and the right leg as well. Coming up to the straddle leg stance and spinning, Basically, a lot of the movements in the forms are just like gymnastics or acrobatic moves. They're for the skill involved in doing them, the spin. But the elbow, if somebody grabs you this way, there's no targets right here. But if I move to the side and do an elbow over the shoulder punch, it's a self-defense move. Same thing here. So there's pretty much simple interpretation of those particular movements. So once again, the new movements in this particular series that we haven't covered in the other forms, now that we're doing two things at once. So a lot of people find that they can do this and do that, but now practicing doing two moves simultaneously at the same time. Grab, knocking the hands off. Or you can knock the hands off and then come in for the strike. So if somebody grabs you, 1, you could knock the hands off. 2, you could come in for your counter strike. It just depends on the angle that you throw these. Same thing from the rear. First move possibly here. Second move possibly moving in for the strike to the groin and then strike to the head. Grabbing down the center line here, striking in here. The next move, moving forward with the block spear hand to the solar plex, the spin bottom fist, and then just driving a straight punch. The set movements basically against the hold, but in the form it's a balance move. So after you're halfway, you've got to hold your balance up like so, and then come down, set. And so then you have a series of movements in here where you're sparring like this, sparring, or using it for an elbow, and coming in, or a stomp and an elbow and a strike. So there's a lot of nice hidden self-defense movements in the Phyung Samdan. Now we'll do it at full form speed, and you'll be able to see some of these movements inside the form once again. Attention, bow. Ready, stands. Phyung Samdan.
Phyung Samdan, sir.
Hey! Hello. Attention, bow. Very nice. That is the Phyung Samdan, the third in the series of the intermediate Phyung forms.